artificial intelligence to enhance learning experiences. Thank you for inviting me to the 23rd Educational Leadership Forum. It's an honor for me to be a part of the artificial intelligence discussion, participating in the sharing of ideas here today, and talking about exploring the potentials and the risks of artificial intelligence. What has emerged as generative artificial intelligence. The acronym is GAI. This leadership forum has devised some key questions, aims, objectives, and outcomes that I believe we as a society will be addressing and grappling with, I'm sure, for years to come, as GAI and AI evolves within our international societies. I will relay my background. I'm an educator. I have taught educational technologies for a dozen years in Toronto, Canada, at the secondary level within 2 high schools. After this, I taught digital technologies at the Faculty of Education for over 20 years in Winnipeg, Canada, as a professor. And I'm cross-appointed to the School of Art at the University of Manitoba as well. I'm currently located in the heart of the North American prairies, which is about a 7-hour drive straight north from Minneapolis in the United States to my location here in Winnipeg, Canada. Since 1992, I have researched in the area of digital technologies. My research started at the time of the early internet, which was talked about during the early 1900s when it was launched internationally as the information highway. Since then, I've researched for over 3 decades at the higher education level in the areas of power dynamics between educators and students using digital technologies. Also, pedagogy and curriculum development in digital virtual environments in the arts. Additionally, teacher support and integration of digital art technologies into virtual classrooms. Creativity and technology. I've also explored issues of human rights in digital technologies. And right now, I'm researching with a team across Canada in the area of visual social media usage with teenagers and young adults, as well as the area which I'm here to speak to you about today, artificial intelligence usage in education. In my talk about artificial intelligence, I would like to pose some questions that the famous French painter from the Impressionist era, he was a friend of Vincent van Gogh. One of his paintings was entitled, "Where do we come from? What are we? And where are we going?" In answering these questions that Gauguin had posed over 100 years ago, this speech is comprised of 5 parts. Firstly, I will place generative artificial intelligence in a brief historical context. Secondly, education and AI will be contextualized within the current environment we are grappling with today. Thirdly, the pros and cons of AIs will be addressed. And I know that this happened yesterday in this session, so I will cooperate and add to the discussion. Fourthly, I will discuss how AI can be used in education effectively. And finally, I will conclude about where we are headed in the future using this technology. So I'm going to frame it by beginning with a brief historical context. And so I begin with referring to Gauguin, the painter again. Where did we come from? So let us look at the technology in light of this question. To do this, I will talk about past technologies that have created great changes and revolutions. Firstly, I turn to the development of the technology, the Gutenberg press, in approximately 1440 AD. Before this press was developed, scribes, usually living in monasteries, were employed to write and to illuminate books by hand, which was painstaking, time-consuming, and offered people a limited product, beautiful but limited product. As a result of the Gutenberg press, large numbers of books could be reproduced inexpensively. Consequently, knowledge quickly dispersed throughout Renaissance Europe. Ideas proliferated, and they spread broadly to all populations at great distances apart. Moreover, languages were standardized, and literacy greatly improved. The Gutenberg press has been considered one of the most seminal technological inventions humans have produced. An impactful fallout discussed was the loss of jobs to scribes. Secondly, I moved to the next great technological change that occurred during the 19th century called the Industrial Revolution, which altered rural farming industries reliant on handmade production to urban economies dependent on machines and industry. Large population shifts resulted from people moving from farmlands into cities that housed factories which produced goods for the masses. The benefits of the Industrial Revolution were manifold, from increased production of goods to lower prices for consumers, who could acquire more items, from clothes and furniture to watches and cookware and far beyond. Some of the fallouts were pollution, exploitation of workers, shortened life expectancy of employees, and reduced quality of life for those working in these industries. The third great era of change is known as the digital revolution. Many of us, including myself, have lived through this era for the past 40 years. We saw great alterations, seeing the move from analog technology usage to digital technology practices. Even though the concept of the computer was developed in 1822, 2 centuries ago, by Charles Babbage, it wasn't until the 1930s that the German inventor Konrad Zuse developed the first electromechanical binary programmable modern computer, considered to be the first functional computer. Following this time period, these were refined. I personally remember the experience of working on a punch card system in which my cards that I penciled in codes had to be physically sent to the central IBM tower in London, England in the 1970s for data processing. By the 1980s, the advent of purchasing home computers en masse by lay people enabled the public to store information in binary code and use it. People were communicating and creating, consuming, prosuming, using their home computers for work and pleasure. Later, in the early 1990s, the internet was established along with smart technologies, mobile phones, and the development of social media, which has had a large impact even today, with positive benefits including access to large amounts of information, new industries, improved convenience for people, and communication on a large scale. Some of the fallouts, as there always are ones in relation to technologies, are that we are susceptible to computer attacks. There is a well-documented mental health decline in our civilization, and the disintegration of a robust sense of societal and world cohesion. Indeed, we see the impacts of that today, right now. So at this time, let us move toward the fourth technological movement, generative artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, sometimes called machine intelligence, is defined by Poole, Mackworth, and Goebel in 1998 as any digital machine that mimics humankind's intelligence, capabilities, purposes. In short, it is adept at performing what normally entails certain aspects of human intelligence. However, it is important to keep in mind that AI development began actually quite a long time ago. Close to a century ago, the famous Englishman Alan Turing pioneered the universal Turing machine in 1935. It was capable of reading symbols, scanning information, storing data, and producing new symbols. In summary, it could follow commands. According to Copeland in 2023, and I'm going to quote him here, quote, Turing often discussed how computers could learn from experience as well as solve new problems through the use of guiding principles, a process now known as heuristic problem solving, unquote. Since Turing's work, international researchers have been developing AI, creating ongoing advancements. I do not have time to talk about these over the last 70 years, so let us jump to today, to our current age of what is termed big data, where we have immense computing AI capacities. According to Ann Hoa in 2017 at Harvard University, Humankind can collect through AI usage seemingly limitless amounts of information that one person alone is absolutely incapable of handling or managing. AI has a profound impact on our lives today, ranging from now accepted and relied upon voice-activated assistants like Alexa, Siri, and Google Maps. It is now ubiquitous as we turn to such AI software as grammar correction. Grammarly is an example of this type of application. Google is also something that is a part of our lives today, wherein AI documents computer searches to earmark potential buyers through algorithms, and we receive advertisements earmarked to our interests and past purchases, sometimes wanted and sometimes unwanted. Currently, some speculate that we are on the threshold of a fourth revolution, what we call Web 3.0, which is Bozert's term in 2023, and others name generative artificial intelligence. That is GAI, as described by Mondale, Das, and Verena in 2023. It uses machine learning and deep learning to produce data sets that generate models to produce a variety of texts. With deep learning, the human brain's neural networks are simulated to discern data, patterns, and rules. New data is generated that conforms to the data that was mined. Writing from the perspective they are coming from, which is business and communications, the author states, and this is Yu and Guo, generative artificial intelligence, quote, has brought revolutionary changes to our world, enabling businesses to create new experiences by combining virtual and physical worlds. As the use of GAI grows along with the metaverse, it is explored by academics, researchers, and industry communities for its endless possibilities. Unquote. Generative artificial intelligence, such as the now renowned ChatGPT, which is OpenAI's chat box, is like other GAIs, extremely versatile, and has reinforcement learning techniques. It offers what in the past was undertaken by humans, such as conversational capabilities and text content production, including written text, sound, videos, imagery, code, multimedia. GAI software applications amass large amounts of data while absorbing structures and arrangements of this training data input, producing information with parallel representations. Even though GAIs have been in our society for a while, including the Transformer in 2017, DALL-E in 2021, it was not until ChatGPT created by OpenAI was launched to the international public on November 13th, 2022, that GAIs produced a public awareness on a mass scale. And I noticed yesterday in the lecture discussion that a lot of people were referring to ChatGPT. So at the end of February 2023, 3 months after ChatGPT was launched, it had 158 million users and is now being used by 1.8 billion people per month. This is phenomenal. It is generally acknowledged to be the fastest growing digital software application to date. Over the last 7 months, people began to envision the tremendous possibilities that GAI software has in all fields, from economics, science, and the arts to education. Anyone who has easy access to the internet can use these programs, and some at the present time are free or remain free to this day. Notice I said some. By using GAIs, we are training them, according to Bozert in 2023, and I'm going to quote this: generative AI technologies do not learn per se, but rather undergo training. This is very important. The offerings they present are ultimately a product of the content we provide, which feeds their algorithms. Consequently, this viewpoint emphasizes the importance of big data as it functions as a rapid data repository, metaphorically a data farm from which generative AI can extract and it can harvest information, contextualize it, into knowledge and ultimately attain a so-called algorithmic wisdom. This positions big data and online networks as extensions of generative AI neurons, eventually transforming the web into what is termed a global brain, unquote. Since ChatGPT's launch, we have seen competition emerge. It appears it is an aggressive race, similar to when the internet was launched in the 1990s, with a multitude of search engines competing, such as Yahoo and Google. Of course, Google won. At the present time, barred by Google, Microsoft Bing, and others, digital GAI applications have emerged on the scene competing with ChatGPT, while further iterations of software released are seeming to occur at an endless rate. Note that even though many were launched with no costs attached, AI companies are beginning to charge customers now. I'm not surprised by this. We are hearing how AI is making advances and allowing people to undertake tasks with ease throughout the world. Artificial intelligence is used in all fields, from medicine, in which doctors use AI to aid in medical diagnoses and find new antibiotics, to assisting in job applications in all processes, in all fields, and to gathering data on individuals by large corporations, as O'Neill has eloquently expressed in her recent book. So let's turn our attention to AI, GAI, and education. And so, like Gauguin, we're going to merge now into the second part, and that is, what are we? He poses that question, what are we? I ask, what is happening in education today in relation to artificial intelligence usage? I believe that AI is making a fundamental and profound impact on education. As learners and educators, some people have embraced digital programs using what Leonard terms in 2018 and 2021 entities with agency. He explains that through coding algorithms, there are great limits and constraints embedded in the applications, thereby enabling AI to have agency, affecting student learning and their production. Since AI can imitate many human operations, executing human tasks that previously could only be undertaken by people, AI usage relating to teaching and learning are manifold, from data compilation and marking to producing text, both written and multimodal. I have found that in the middle years to grade 12 schools, and that's kind of the range of students from about age 10 to 18, 19, and within higher education, chatbots like ChatGPT are being used a lot within the last 7 months for a multitude of reasons, in a variety of ways inside and outside of school. At all levels, I perceive students are using AI to help with their writing in subjects across all curricula, from English to history and science, for such texts as essays, reports, reviews, and creative writing. In fact, they're relying on the GAIs to write their work. For all disciplines, other AI applications like Tome, T-O-M-E, can produce presentations similar to PowerPoint. In the arts, learners utilize AI software like the famous DALL-E by OpenAI or Nightcap Studio to create artworks, whether they be digital paintings, sketches, or photographs. There are tons, of course, of other applications. I'm just naming a few of the AI technologies. Other AI applications like Adobe Character Animator enable animations, and such video AI apps like the Runway app are used to make moving imagery in record time. Let's turn to music education, where music AI software like Amadeus Code enables people to quickly write songs. Another such app, Boomy, allows pupils to breezily create musical lyrics. Edible Dance Generation, Turning to Dance, and Choreo Maker, the actual Edible Dance Generator Edge is created by Stanford University, are now being used to choreograph dance. Other examples and other disciplines include the AI app called Leap Math, assisting students to learn math, and it claims easily and with enjoyment. Mondly is an example of an AI chatbot that supports the development of student learners in 33 languages. At the higher education level, students are using all of the above and more. Additionally, AI programs such as Elicit can help undergraduate and graduate students, as well as instructors and professors, produce research questions and literature reviews. Like the students they teach, educators are using AI applications, and some are embracing it. Similar to use at the middle and secondary level and higher education, teachers are employing AI apps and software to do such tasks, from writing written text and making artwork to producing PowerPoint-like slideshows. Additionally, educators can use AI software like ChatGPT to write curricula. Cameron outlines how in Singapore, teachers are utilizing robots in schools to do such tasks as reading stories to them. Also, he describes China's usage of AI in terms of facial recognition to monitor learners' expressions and levels of engagement in classrooms. Moreover, he outlines that recently 60,000 Chinese schools are using AI for grading. Indeed, some researchers look at using AI favorably, as is illustrated by the research work of Nutwi, Daniel, and Amati, and it was written as early as 2019, who explain in their paper that learners need well-trained, suitable, and correct feedback that is so important to their own educational development. And again, this was talked about yesterday in the discussion as well on AI at the session. This contrasts with typical grading, especially essay assignments for heavily populated classes. Utilizing an automated grading system, they employed a chatbot to provide questions that demanded written student answers. They found that there was an inter-rater agreement level between human educators and the AI grading systems employed. As a result, the authors argue for the use of chatbots in schools, noting that they found that employing AI for assessment shows timely feedback and more student engagement. I'm sure you're well aware that grading using AI is indeed being used right now on an international level. In summary, AI is being employed in classrooms today for all aspects of teaching and learning by educators and their students. Learners today are born into the world of technology, wherein their future is now connected to AI usage. As discussed, students and educators are readily adapting to novel AI applications within K-12 and higher education. I will turn next to looking at some advantages of AI. It's extremely valuable for a number of reasons in teaching and learning that enable both students and educators important and numerous opportunities. So I'm going to provide a dozen reasons that AI is beneficial in school, and indeed, there are a lot more. I'm outlining a dozen here that I perceive are important. So to begin with, AI collects a vast amount of data. In fact, we've never had the capacity to handle information of this magnitude in the past. The second benefit is that it can aid and augment human thought through mining this data. The third advantage is that AI provides, at the present time, completed and increasingly sophisticated text for students and teachers to use. Content creation is useful. GAI can construct and convert written, image-based music and multimodal texts. Fourthly, AI software applications can suggest ways to approach problem solving, problems in themselves, provide understandings, and answers to complex issues through text, undertake editing of works, and chat with its users, providing ideas. Fifthly, segueing on this, another benefit is it can edit text already written. And it can change the tone if you want it to do that, from a professional level to something for teenagers, let's say. Sixthly, AI enables students to critique written texts produced by AI, work with them, and build from them. The seventh benefit is that it can boost and enrich educational institutions' capabilities to adjust to altering situations, and thus avoid limitations to a prescribed set of approaches for content delivery and evaluation. Additionally, AI can facilitate personalized learning in terms of educational community and individual needs. To quote the Global Citizen Foundation, which I really liked, quote, AI tools can analyze vast amounts of data on learners' behaviors, performances, and preferences to deliver a personalized learning experience that can suggest educational content that matches the user's profile, unquote. A ninth benefit is that AI can enable immersive, interactive, adaptive learning experiences through recording such as AI apps and language acquisition. Added to this are the multimodal experiences that promote skill and knowledge development, nurturing learners' engagement through diverse simulated and interactive experiences. A further advantage, the 10th one of AI, although problematic, is that it enables educators to save tremendous time and great effort by using it to write tests, screen shows, and curriculum, among other handy texts to teach and to evaluate learners' assignments, as has already been discussed. The 11th advantage is that AI enables students and schools competitiveness internationally and prepares youth for the workforce where they are being used. And finally, the 12th benefit, and the one I want to discuss in more detail, is that AI enables users the ability to play with AI software, circumvent AI, and use it in creative ways that have not been perceived by its software designers. This is very evident in the creation of some artworks today by professional artists. As we all know, artists can be subversive. They have always used the newest technologies in creative ways, as is evidenced by, way back, Leonardo da Vinci from 1452 to 1519, approximately 500 years ago. He was famous for his use of technologies in not only painting, but beyond, to today illustrated by such visual artists as Kate Crawford. It benefits educators and learners to examine the approaches that professional artists are taking to use GAIs in playful, imaginative ways. By taking this path, teachers can, as Olson in 2023 and Song and Koo again in that same year discuss, which is our year. What they're talking about is and this is important, co-construction of art production by working as a partner with AI. The idea here of co-construction of art is key. It is not approaching AI in a typical way. And by this, I'm talking about using such AI software like Gl-2 or Dream Studio, in which the user asks AI to produce a work and AI spews it out on demand rather quickly. What I'm talking about is that the artists work in conjunction with AI as a partner, with both artist and AI having agency. Moreover, other artists, educators are using AI for the public good. Let's turn to two examples of professional artists and educators' works to illustrate my above points. Firstly, the first one is in visual art. And I turn to what has recently happened as an exhibition at MoMA, which is the Montreal Museum of Modern Art in New York City. Now, if you Google the Museum of Art in New York City and you Google AI, it probably will come up. It's on a YouTube video. So this recent video illustrates what I'm talking about that was posted on YouTube in April of this year, entitled AI Art, How Artists Are Using and Confronting Machine Learning. Artists such as Refik Anadol and Trevor Paglen are highlighted in this video. They are experimenting with AI as a tool to reveal what is sophisticated yet prejudiced, political, and cultural. For example, Paglen focuses on the theme of AI surveillance using algorithms to mine data. In his work, he critiques AI looking at the oversimplification of data processes while exploring ethical concerns and biases. Throughout his artworks, Paglen scrutinizes and displays algorithmic subjectivities and biases in AI, and by doing this, reveals the impact of AI data on our lives. In her seminal book, O'Neill, in 2017, advises that individuals do indeed need to take back agency by comprehending the ways in which AI algorithms, work and interact thoughtfully in terms of developing a critical view and practical usage between the power dynamics of AI and the user. Writing about this concept, Leonard in 2018 writes, quote, "It then becomes the job of the individual using digital tools to critically review the digital environments to assess if the environment is serving the user or, and this is important, if the user is serving the environment. If the users of digital tools want to support their creative behaviors, then the ability to critically question digital environments for creative agency must take place to preserve the user's creative agency." These artists are indeed maintaining their own agency while illustrating to the public AI processes and controls. For the second example, I'm going to turn to dance. I will discuss Colin Clark from the Ontario College of Art and Design University, OCADU in short, in Toronto, Canada. Recently, he worked with other educators and artists conducting a series of workshops for the organization, the Pan-Canadian Dance and Disability and Digital Project, DDD Project in short. Colin Clark himself is an artist and an educator. Working with AI software, he aids people with disabilities in movement, helping them to learn dance, looking at inclusive design and art practice. The fundamental goals include building digital capacity, fostering human-focused design practices, and developing new projects. Clark states, using his own perspective, that, and to use his own words, I'm just going to quote him, "I bring together two sides of my work in life, which are looking at how to design emerging technologies," he says, "and computer systems to be more inclusive of the full range of human diversity. Of course, as a practicing artist, I'm curious about how these technologies, these tools, and this software that I write and make can be used for unexpected and creative ways in terms of art. I bring together this practice of inclusion with my own work, making music and improvising. I'm excited to see what happens in terms of spontaneous improvisation and creating a system that is both social and has technological aspects as well," unquote. In short, Clark is dedicating himself to improving the lives of his students with disabilities using AI in dance education. I hope the above two examples discussed by educators and artists illustrate important ways to use AI, wherein the user creates or co-creates using AI and using these technologies to explore, advance ideas, benefit individuals, including ones with disabilities, and produce innovative artworks. In summary, this is an exciting era in which AI offers opportunities and some great opportunities inside of education and outside of education, and advances within education that can benefit schools, students, and teachers at large within education if we use it knowingly and well. So at this point in time, I'm going to look at the cons of AI. I will address what is happening with artificial intelligence that is impacting us, in other words, in negative ways. Recently, widespread, extensive discussion has been in the news about AI, including the BBC, Reuters, CBC, etc. Media coverage includes the talk of an open letter, which was written in March 2023, 3 months ago. Some, like Jan LeCun, who was awarded in 2018 the Turing Award for his research on deep learning. And this is no small prize. This is like the Nobel Prize for technology. He expresses that concerns are overblown. However, given that this letter was signed by 1,200 people, consisting of scientists, academics, corporate executives, and experts knowledgeable in AI technology, I believe this is of grave concern. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres last week declared that there is a need for an establishment of a global watchdog for AI that could play a role similar to how the International Agency of Atomic Energy regulates nuclear technology. He proclaimed, quote, "The scientists and experts have called on the world to act, declaring AI an existential threat to humanity," unquote. These people called to place a moratorium for 6 months on AI in order to stop further generative AI developments for this time period, to implement societal regulations and develop governmental policies pertaining to its usage at large. It is important to know that these individuals who signed this letter have been key in the development of technologies who are asking for hiatus on generative AI, including Yoshio Bengio, an AI pioneer who shared the 2018 Turing Award with Hinton and LeCun. Elon Musk, owner of OpenAI, who financed ChatGPT, Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple and engineers at Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta, the umbrella company for such apps as Facebook and Instagram. Additionally, Geoffrey Hinton, who shared the 2018 Turing Award with LeCun and who has been recently called by journalists the godfather of artificial intelligence, also signed the letter. It is interesting to note that Hinton recently resigned from Google, warning in a BBC newscast that AI chatbots are what he termed scary. In the future, and this could be sooner than we think, Hinton warns GI could progress to a much more sophisticated level, and that's the worry. So at the present time, AI lacks in significant areas. What are these? Firstly, it cannot create new theories, but only mine data right now. Additionally, it reveals biased and discriminatory content as it is created by software designers, engineers, and others whose prejudices are apparent in AI texts. Data collected is also negatively influenced by cyber trolls. The result is a toxic content that is misogynistic, sexist, ageist, and racist, and if left unchecked, can perpetuate discrimination in readers. Other concerns are unchecked data collection and text production by generative AI that does not discern the real from the fake. Fake news, including disinformation and misinformation, abound in GAI texts. Added to these problems, the famous linguist and academic Noam Chomsky during this year points out GAI's inability at the present time to prescribe and predict, to discern what is and what could be, what is impossible to come into being. It cannot prescribe, it cannot predict. As well, GAIs do not have the ability to create moral thinking. This has become apparent. For instance, drawing upon Chomsky again, in a recent article, he revealed his conversation with ChatGPT. He asked a direct question about its morals and its personal stance on an issue to which the response was that it was unable to have moral beliefs, nor from these make judgments about good and evil. Chomsky concludes that, quote, "the most popular and fashionable strain of AI, machine learning, will degrade our science and debase our ethics by incorporating into our technology a fundamentally flawed conception of language and knowledge." As well, there's data privacy concerns. It's also an issue along with data security. Another concern and worry are student rampant plagiarism usages, where learners can use chatbots to generate essays, reviews, slideshows like PowerPoint shows, videos, reports, multimodal text without any thinking, synthesis, and communicating involved. And I was really glad to see this was discussed in yesterday's session. A further worry is that without educators' oversights working with the GAIs, many mistakes can occur. Now, Beidou, Anu, and ANSA in 2023 point out that GAI can misinform by writing incorrect answers to questions, incorrect, and providing fabricated references that do not exist to texts that are non-existent. To date, at the present time, additionally, ChatGPT and other chatbots were trained on information up to 2021, and thus are only aware of data from 2021 and before that time. Information from 2022 and this year are non-existent. when they mine the data. The 10th reason is using GAI is in a destructive, controlling manner is often used. I can envision that GAIs could be used to control students using these technologies, as is evidenced in China right now, to monitor student facial expressions during classes. This could in the future be used in detrimental, anti-democratic ways to suppress, repress, and control humans given certain political regimes. And the final problem I want to outline is that GAI companies are already charging customers for their more sophisticated technologies. Thus, a digital divide can occur between those who can afford better GAIs and those who cannot, and this will have lasting impacts. Given these problems, it is important to ask, what do we do in education? Is banning GAI a solution? 3 months ago in the University World News, it was disclosed that Oxford and Cambridge universities in England have banned ChatGPT, and the Paris Institute of Political Studies has done the same. Given what I observed in Canada, where I am located, students currently are using GAIs from middle schools to higher education, and I surmise it would be extremely difficult to ban unless we ban all cell phones, which is incidentally what France has done in 2018 within kindergarten to the 9th grade. However, like many countries, I do not see a ban happening in my country on phones nor computers in the foreseeable future. Others on an international level concur. People state GAIs are here to stay, and that was stated yesterday as well in the session, and we have to work with them. So how do we approach students using GAIs in schools? How can we, and I pose this question, use GAIs in education effectively? Taking all this into account, I recommend that we use GAI in classrooms only when we, as educators, think students could benefit. Selecting GAIs carefully and using them to promote knowledge and skill development in our classrooms today. I am advocating that educators include GAIs by using them some of the time, not all of the time, in a knowledgeable, up-to-date, very discerning manner, by being aware of the risks, teaching learners what the shortcomings are, being cognizant of its benefits to student learning, and making sure that pupils do not lose valuable skills as a result of relying on this newly emergent technology. A key question I pose: how can educators and institutions mitigate the risks and challenges posed by using GAI technologies in education? In order to lessen the problems using GAIs, firstly, I would like to turn to effective media education literature, which has been developing for decades on an international scale and has been extraordinarily impactful. I suggest that we could benefit from teaching those in education to further student development regarding digital learning, and by doing this, become more critically literate. Dr. Sasha Lucioni, a research scientist at the AI firm Hugging Face, argued that society should focus on issues like AI bias, predictive policing, and the spread of misinformation by chatbots, which she said were very concrete harms. So how do we avoid these problems? What strategies can we use in this era of GAIs that we are immersed in today? Firstly, since students are using GAIs right now, their educators, and I propose this, should absolutely be transparent and talk about the pros and the cons with their learners. That I've talked about this in the speech earlier regarding their exciting capabilities and their limits. Be open about these with the learners. Facilitate students' broader implications of AI usage. Ask them to critically evaluate GAIs. Assign critiques of AI texts and ask students to improve them. Teach learners to use them smartly. Also, to avoid these difficulties, secondly, I advocate that we teach to our students proper research methods at all levels. Research is complex, and it would be easy to do, but disastrous for students to completely rely on GAI to generate their texts. At all levels, from middle years to higher education. Impart the importance to learners of developing their own skills comprised of gathering data, problem solving, synthesizing, and constructing thoughts in an informed, coherent, and analytical manner, and then communicating these through texts they write themselves without help from technologies. By following this, they become independent writers and independent thinkers. This is of the utmost importance. In addition, teachers as well, so they have the ability to develop skills, to acquire knowledge about pedagogy, teach these skills, and design strong curricula. To do this, proper training in all aspects of AI is needed at the teacher education level, at faculties of education. Thirdly, people have been alarmed by the proliferation of fake news. I believe it is imperative that teachers and learners develop the ability to acquire data themselves without bias in order to discern escalating censorship and fake news within K-12 schools and higher education. And when I say without bias, I mean looking at both sides, looking at all angles, analyzing, searching out for the truths in this, in whatever the research is. I argue that all learners, educators should discern how to detect fake news, comprised of misinformation, which is the unintentional spread of erroneous data, disinformation, which is false information, intentionally portrayed as true, and weaponization, which is undermining and thus damaging legitimate content through suggesting that it is questionable and therefore trying to discredit the writers. The fourth way is to undercut well-researched, soundly written information through personal and unsupported and baseless attacks. And this is all written in Journal in 2019 in his really excellent book. The final way is the proliferation of what is called deepfakes, which enables AI software users to create photographs or videos of people that are false and enable, in the case of the moving image, individuals to state ideas that appear to be real. In our present culture, deepfakes abound and are used for a variety of reasons. Such was the case in 2016 of the famous actress Carrie Fisher. She was starring as the young 19-year-old princess Leia in Star Wars Rogue One, where she was in real life at that time 60 years old, but again, 19 years old in the movie. Another popular use of deepfakes is to discredit and undermine politicians, such as the former president of Germany, Angela Merkel, or the American president, Joe Biden. People need to fact check. Students need to do this and when reading imagery. It can also be used for nefarious purposes to trick people, such as a distraught mother who recently watched her daughter screaming out that she was hurt. The purpose was ransom money. Critical literacy needs to be consistently taught by educators today. Promote critical thinking by asking learners to undertake such activities as checking authors' credentials. Teach them to examine writers' profiles and bios and compare and contrast ideas. Search what criticism is posted by others. Assist in having learners formulate ideas about those authors, who those authors are, and what perspectives they hold. Teach to discern whether the author is real or a troll or a bot. There are many effective media literacy techniques teachers can employ to enable students really effective research, and teachers as well. Fourthly, another cause for worry when researching information is that of internet censorship, of which learners need to be aware. When people click on internet sites, they are often giving information to corporations using AI to collect private and professional information click by click. This data is used to shape learners' future Google searches so that users' own preferences are provided at the top of the information searches. The result is what is famously known and coined by Eli Perrier in 2014 as the Google bubble, which perpetrates knowledge isolation, creating myopic perspectives if users are unaware. Internet censorship also includes examples like what occurred in China with the China CN search engine, which made information unattainable to Chinese citizens regarding political dissension toward those in power and authority in China. A further example is a recent American internet users' restrictions making it difficult to access leftist political sites by 55% in America. In education, ways to combat censorship are many when collecting information to teach students to learn about diverse perspectives. As well, learners can use other search engines other than Google, such as DuckDuckGo, that guards against privacy mining, avoids internet micro-targeting, does not provide individualized search results, and thus protects against filter bubbles. A fifth area of advice I would like to offer is that rather than consistently relying on GAI to generate text, teach students so they know how to formulate their own work, whether they be written, visual, audio, or multimodal. And that means to generate thought processes, to generate creativity in this text production. Sixthly, as well, to avoid problems, I envision and I strongly advocate that we do not throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, as the old saying goes. I have always believed in this truism in regard to technology. This means keep what is tried and true in education. Keep what works. I've always believed in this truism in regard to technology, whatever technology it is. To this end, I suggest an emphasis on project learning, experiential learning, and inquiry models, harkening back to John Dewey, the famous educator. This enables learners to become involved in work from inception to completion that teachers can mark at all stages of the learning process. Importantly, through doing this, teachers can oversee learning from the beginning to its end. Seventhly, in addition, I would like to point out that GAI can easily aid in student plagiarism. But unfortunately, even though there are programs developed to catch these, such as GPT radar and copy leaks, according to Barr, Wills, and Weber, and others in 2023, it is still difficult to discern as these GAI programs are imperfect and unreliable. So, in other words, we cannot really rely on plagiarism detectors at the present time, and this is a grave problem. I foresee student plagiarism could be rampant in the future, with students using GAI to generate work, including essays, artworks, reviews, and more. Consequently, emphasize process and in-class work to prevent abuse of AI usage during class time, and this allows instructors to completely oversee student practices and the development of learners' work in class. When teachers feel the need, there's nothing wrong with them relying on handwritten in-class tests and handwritten in-class projects. It worked in the past. It can work in the present. These processes are invaluable, and I believe we do not want to lose them. To use an old adage, if we do not use it, we lose it. If we lose this, I could see a dumbing down of skills and knowledge in future generations. The importance of students developing their own abilities to problem solve, examine concepts, create texts, and communicate these to others will maintain student autonomy in a do-it-yourself manner that fosters critical thinking skills that are so crucial to students for their own cognitive development. To avoid problems, I want to advise teachers to get to know GAI applications, try it out, and if you envision it is beneficial for teachers and new learners, utilize this technology. And that's the eighth issue. Also, ninthly, to circumvent difficulties as a teacher. It is important to be open. Openness is the operative word. As with all technology usage, transparency is key. What I mean by this is to keep the discourse between educators and learners open so that you know how students are using the technologies. Be open to the students' sharing of their usage with you and others in the class. Additionally, be open to learning about technology AI usage from your students. Learn from them, discuss with them, be open with them about the pros and cons and what works, and fly with that. Lastly, I strongly believe that technology should work for us and not that we are subsumed by and work for technology itself. In looking at using artificial intelligence in education and GAIs effectively, I turn to the famous media theorist Marshall McLuhan to guide us. he has the 4 laws, which I was going to discuss, but I think I will not talk about them at the present time as time is running out. But you can turn to McLuhan's Wake by the National Film Board of Canada. It's a wonderful 4 laws that can help guide us to the present. So I'm going to turn to my conclusion. I believe that the road ahead is to employing this to be reflective with the new technology, that we can ensure in our classroom today that we use GAIs in positive ways, such as, for example, assisting students to learn languages and aiding learners with disabilities like dyslexia. In these ways, GAIs do indeed offer exciting usages. I think we need to be critical. I think we need to be thoughtful. I think we need to finally employ what works and to really utilize it in effective ways in the classroom. Now, in conclusion, the future. I'm again going to refer to Gauguin's famous painting, and I ask at this point, where are we going? It is extremely crucial to be critical of emerging GAI technologies and use them with care, with discerning eyes, and with knowledge. As with any technology, there is a fallout, and we are hearing about it already in our 4th technological period we are entering, the era of generative artificial intelligence. In the news, talk is rampant. Last week, the United Nations, again, Antonio Guterres stated that the concept of implementing a global watchdog for AI is important. He stated, quote, "The scientists and experts have called on the world to act, declaring AI an existential threat to humanity, on the par with the risk of nuclear wars. Additionally, we are bombarded by the warning of great job losses ahead in all areas of work, with a looming promise of a societal restructuring." Now, unquote. For instance, Kleiman from the BBC writes that companies are replacing employees with AI. Discussed recently is a strike by workers of the Writers Guild of America that is severely affecting Hollywood and New York media productions in the United States and Canada. One of the crucial reasons for this strike is to prevent the usage of media companies like Disney to use GAIs to write screenplays. From the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, Pittis describes current fears that GAIs will soon begin to threaten the workforce, jobs in all fields, causing further increasing societal disparities between the wealthy and socioeconomically challenged. Meanwhile, again in the news, Goodyear and Pittis from the CBC News warn that Google, Microsoft, and other tech firms are actually indeed in a competitive race for improved GAIs. Initially, Google had possession of the GAI technology, and I was actually quite surprised that as a corporate entity, it consciously chose to use it internally to improve its own technology. However, when Microsoft released ChatGPT to the layperson, Google began to release its own chatbots, and other companies soon followed. Indeed, these are businesses, and their primary concerns are fiscal, not educational. As a result of these companies' competition, the exponential acceleration of GAIs is occurring to produce improved ones now and in the future for money. On June 15th, 2023, just last week, the European Union announced it was implementing a new law regarding controlling AI as, quote, "Governments around the world grapple with how to respond to the possible threats of this fast-moving technology." The EU draft law includes restrictions on the use of facial recognition and mandates disclosures of data by makers of chatbots and deepfake videos. The president of the European Union, Robert Metsola, declared that we need limitations, we need restrictions, and we need clear boundaries for AI so it will not damage our human rights and democratic beliefs. Similarly, I believe we need regulations and policies developed at all levels of education from K to 12 and within higher learning. These will aid creating strong pedagogical practices to foster exciting teaching and learning using GAIs in our future classrooms. We will benefit by teaching and promoting ways for students to seek truths in their learning, to seek robustness in the acquisition of data, and to employ GAIs with integrity. with creativity, and with critical thought. We also need to generate discussions and regulations and planning in our teacher training and within our societies. And that's why I'm so pleased today to give this speech. It is essential to create and use an artificial intelligence educational framework. I propose educators form educational laws for the use of generative artificial intelligence. As educators, I put forth that it is extremely advantageous for us to generate dialogical discussions to forge a path ahead. Knowing all the risks and benefits, I recommend that we use GAIs in an educated, responsible, and ethical manner in our classrooms. Let us hope that what some people are predicting is true, specifically that GAIs will usher in a new renaissance, a new era of technology enlightenment, according to Goodyear 2023. Climate Imbalance from the BBC exclaimed, quote, "Make no mistake, we are on a speeding train right now, and the concern is that one day it will start building its own tracks," unquote. Discussions need to ensue by everybody in the educational field. By being cognizant of what is happening, thoughtful about the benefits and fallouts of using these new GAI technologies, and employing some kind of laws that we need to implement for education, we will be able to inform and create our curricula and refine our pedagogical approaches to meet the challenges of GAIs. I recommend that we need to keep building our own tracks in education on this speeding AI technology train in order to protect and benefit our future teachers and learners in our schools worldwide. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat line. Yes, thank you. There's some really interesting comments here. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the emojis. So yes, Black Mirror episode 6. I haven't seen it, but interesting. Yeah, and on a lighter note, how do you feel? Is it always good to use digital technology and learning with positive outlook? With AI, we can use it responsibly, keeping in mind students' safety. I was recently, that's a really good point. I was recently at a workshop, an international workshop, talking about AIs. I was not a speaker there, but one of the speakers went, when she was talking, "Oh, I have to talk about this positively. I cannot think about the negative, critical aspects." I think that's our role as educators, as people, that we need to think about the positive and we need to think about the negative. We need to be critical. We need to go into this with a knowledgeable, critical outlook because we are so affecting the next generation. And we could head down the train in a very negative path if we don't put on our critical lenses, our critical glasses, and use this in an informed way as educators and as administrators. So at this point, if you have any more questions, if concerns, please write it in the chat line, or I guess you can ask me. I'm not hearing anyone question verbally, but I'm going to take a look at the chat line again. Okay. So I like the chat train analogy, and as making our own tracks, be wary that AI can make its own tracks, and boom, yes. And you have agency. Don't give it up. As people, this is the first time with technologies that we have been threatened with losing our own powers, our own agency. And that is extremely important. Be wary, forge a path ahead that's very positive. We need to do this internationally using GAIs. As it mines data, as it collects data, as it improves, as it becomes more sophisticated, because I don't think Microsoft, Google, other companies are going to stop. There's not going to be a hiatus on this. It's just going to completely generate and create more power and become more sophisticated. And that to me is scary. And so we have to follow a track that is sound. How can artificial intelligence contribute to the development of critical thinking and problem solving? Among students, you have to do that. As educators, you have to use GAIs in very discerning, careful ways in your curriculum and in the pedagogical approaches that you do, that you construct. It's not GAIs that construct it. You are. So if you give your power to GAIs, they can take over. Kids will not learn in the way that they have learned in the past. They will not develop creative thinking. They will not develop critical thinking skills. They will not develop abilities to even create texts if you let GAIs take over. On a lighter note, how do you feel on my side? Advances in cyberspace and new technologies like AI and hypersonic weapons are directly impacting the way in which we think about nuclear deterrence, crisis stability, nuclear monitoring and verification, and also nuclear disarmament. Absolutely. It's not a lighter note. I like that. This is of huge concern. And, and this is outside of the sphere of education as well, that all people in all fields internationally have to take on this critical lens. It's not just education. And look at critical agency. Look at how they will not give up control, how they can forge ahead in positive ways using GAIs to generate positive aspects of climate change, positive aspects in terms of hypersonic weapons, if you can look at it that way, positive aspects in terms of nuclear deterrence. But we still have agency and we have to use it. Okay, thank you for these questions. I really appreciate them. Curriculum redesigned to integrate AI themes and led by AI technology definitely will drive human society toward pathways that ensure global sustainable development. Yeah, but you as educators and as administrators, you can look at curriculum designed by GAIs, but you need to actually oversee this, create it yourself. You can look at it as a co-creation. You can look at it as you will look at the GAIs and what they come up with, but you have the power to completely alter it. You can look at it. I mean, we have stages here of accepting GAIs. You can absolutely reject the text that GAIs produce on curriculum or on essay writing or on whatever you're going to use it for, PowerPoints. You can accept with modifications, extreme modifications to very few modifications. You can co-create or you can accept fully, but you have agency right now. That's what I mean by agency. You have agency right now as researchers, as critical thinkers, as educators in all capacities to utilize any of these 4 stages. You don't have to accept the GAIs and what they produce carte blanche. Okay, you can absolutely reject it. I mean, it could be filled with misinformation, disinformation, weaponization, fake news as a whole, deep fakes, reject it, plagiarism, bias, and so forth. Reject it outright. Or you could look at manipulating it, and or you could look at accepting it with minor modifications or accepting it full out. It's up to you. Okay, is there an international law to control Microsoft, etc., from unlimited and even dangerous experimentation with GAI? Absolutely not right now. Business reigns, corporate concerns reign in our international societies. Microsoft and Google, etc., they're corporate entities that, I mean, some people are fighting with it. Trudeau in Canada is fighting against, I believe, Meta in terms of news and trying to create a law. And Meta right now is engaged in censorship, saying, Trudeau, your government can't do this to us. And if you demand that we pay for news, then we're going to censor the internet for your users to penalize them. There's no laws right now. Is there some error? I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you could just put in the chat line. We must protect the agency that we have right now. If we look the other way, GIs can blow up in our face. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And this is why I'm here. I am so worried about this. I can see the benefits. I can see the advantages. And right now we are in control and we can use it knowingly, but we must put on a critical lens. We must engage in this in a way that will benefit us and not the other way around. Okay. Any other questions? I am really open. What are some good AI projects for beginners or learners? Okay, well, like let's say using ChatGPT, you can have a project where you ask the students, you give them a question. Let's say you're learning Shakespeare in English and you're looking at Macbeth, and you ask the ChatGPT to write a 3,000 word essay on Macbeth, whether he was a hero or whether he was, as you know, a wonderful hero that we can learn from, or whether he was awful and destructive. And ask every one of your students, let's say you have a class of 30, ask every one of your students to ask ChatGPT that, and then have them share it, because ChatGPT will not produce the same text for all 30 of your students. Then they can critique it and use it as one of their references in their own essay, so that they retain agency and they only use it as a reference, and they use that reference so that they have to think themselves and they have to critique the ChatGPT, which again may have terrible things in it, like it could have ageist, misogynistic biases. It could be racist, et cetera, et cetera. And the students have to see that. It could have actually fake information in it. The students have to see that. They have to fact check Macbeth. If that helps, you could have them, thank you. You could have them, if it's visual art, ask them to use DALL-E, and I'm just saying DALL-E because DALL-E is famous, or DALL-E 2, to create a Mona Lisa. I just wrote an article about this that hopefully will be published. It's in review. And ask them to do the Mona Lisa at 80 and create an oil painting. And they can ask DALL-E to create 5 different Mona Lisas that are, sketches of her at 80 years old. And then they put that into their sketchbook, they print it out, and they have to come up with 10 more sketches on their own versions. They can use the ideas. They have to reference it with ChatGPT, but they have 15 sketches that they can use to create their own oil painting. And they learn the techniques of oil painting. They actually have to use their own critical thought and creative ideas in the process. So those are some examples. You can ask, you can have students write their own report and have ChatGPT amongst one of the reviewers, and have the students in the class review their reviews as well. And, see where ChatGPT, what it produces, and if it's any good. It could be garbage. It is producing some garbage these days. So have the students have agency. Tell them they have agency. Tell them to use it with agency. Make it transparent. Enable them to realize the downfalls right now of GAIs, and empower them with critical thought and critical skills. Don't lose that. And the ability to communicate, and the ability to synthesize, and the ability to construct ideas in whatever text they're doing, whether it's written text, whether it's film, whether it's PowerPoint, whatever. You need to do that as educators. Okay. I hope those are good examples for you. Great. What are some good AI projects for beginners or learners? I don't know what age you're thinking of, but if it's like grade 5 for beginners, you could have them even look at poetry, for example, in whatever language that you are working in, and look at some famous poets in your countries, and then have ChatGPT create a poem and criticize that one as well. And then have them write their own poem, whether it's haiku or another construction, if that gives you an idea. For grade 5, haiku is a perfect, way to approach poetry. Okay. Was not able to view. Now it's fixed. Thanks for. Oh, good. Should we first know the boundaries of the use of GI and then introduce it? Absolutely. And then introduce it into the curriculum? Absolutely. Know the boundaries. Know what works. Know the problems. Be critical. As educators, I'm very scared because in our country, there's some people that are saying, I'm using ChatGPT in the classroom. I'm using Sydney. Yay, I'm on the cutting edge. No. If you just embrace it and say you're using it without any critical thought as a teacher, I'm scared. Was on it? Okay. Should we? Okay. The boundaries are very, very important here. I have about 6 more minutes. So you have any other questions? Right now, what I want to say is that we need, as a discussion, to further this and to look at having some kind of laws, some kind of guidelines on an international level of using GAIs. It's very important in education. Government should have AI institutions for monitoring it. Absolutely. Yes, 100%. It's been a path, a technology where all technologies have been impactful. And AIs are scary because it's the first time GAIs have agency, like I said before. And if we don't have governments monitoring the usage, we don't have guidelines, we don't have laws in all fields, then we're setting ourselves up for disaster. Okay, is there any way we can restrict the access to students? Absolutely. What you can do as a teacher, you have absolute power in your classroom. You can shut the door. You can say, okay, well, I'm going to teach you about GAIs. I'm going to teach you what's wrong, what's right. And then you create your own projects in the class. You can use GAIs if you think they benefit, but you construct the curriculum, you construct the pedagogical approach. You can even say, I want you to learn how to construct an essay. We're going to use pen and paper. You're going to do your own research. And you're going to do that where I oversee you in class. I'm going to oversee you in class with pen and paper. No phones, no computers, where you're going to compile this in an essay. You're going to have other people in the class review it, and you're going to revise it. And then you're going to finalize it in class only, because that's where teachers can only oversee the learning process. And then they hand it in. I actually, when I first was at university, I hand wrote my own papers, or I typed them out on a typewriter, the technology at the time. I'm old. And then in class, I hand wrote tests. You can oversee that. If it's important for you as an educator to have students learn skills that are outside of GAI usage, keep doing that. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you discern that GAIs are really important and the GAI that you're using will really work for some lesson or some unit plan or whatever you're doing, employ it. But employ it knowingly. Write it into your curriculum. Write it into your pedagogical approach and use it with a critical lens. Know what you want before you even teach. Know what you want your students to learn. Know the skills you want your students to develop. Know the knowledge you want the students to understand and acquire. And then do your curriculum planning, your pedagogical approach, and discern whether GAIs are helpful. If they're not, don't use them. If you want to use them and you find them exciting and you think they're beneficial, you can modify them, you can co-create with them, or you can use them in wholeheartedly. But be aware as educators, be aware as educational administrators what you're doing. You have the power, you have the agency right now. Okay. Yeah, so there you go. You can restrict full-heartedly. You don't have to restrict. It's up to you. You have the power. How can plagiarism be tackled in AI? That's the problem, is that the GAIs that are out there to use plagiarism are ineffective right now. So that's why I'm saying in class, you can oversee the whole process for text writing, for content creation. And you can use John Dewey as your approach in process. You can use group work. You can use individualized student from research to conclusion. You have the power. It's up to you. Okay, plagiarism is going to be an issue. It's so easy. It's so easy for GAI. I don't know if you've used ChatGPT to create a 1,000-word text in minutes. And just that's it. So you have the power right now to control that process. You're welcome. You're welcome, Dee. Okay, I think we have time for one last question, if there is any. I can't hear. But if you can put it in the chat line, I would be able to read it. I thank you. I thank you for this opportunity to be here, for the Global Citizenship Foundation, because I thank you for doing, having the discussion yesterday and today, because this is so important for us. We're on a train. We really are. We're moving ahead, and we have to guide our own direction. And so it's imperative right now, as the GAIs become more sophisticated, to forge our own path ahead. And it's up to you, it's up to us to do that in very significant and powerful ways. And so I thank you. I can't hear you. There we go.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, Professor. I really appreciate the time that you've taken out to have this discussion, to have this distinguished global lecture. So thank you so much for taking out the time. I had a lot of insights from your session, and I have a few thoughts that I would like to share before I formally conclude this session with you and open the floor to some lounge networking. So there were a few thoughts where I had this question, how can we restrict AI? It's the same as using Google. Like, from how I view it at this point in time, AI is the new Google. So it's how well you teach your kids to use AI. I think that would determine the way they would end up using it. So if you tell them that, look, this is predictive AI, which means it's just predicting the next word. It doesn't have its mind of its own, right? So that could be one of them, to make kids aware how it does it. So in a way that it works out in the kids' favor, because kids also understand that this is not actually doing the job. It's just predicting what is the next best word. So I think that is one. The second thing, restriction is not an answer, at least from how I view it. You can restrict it till the time where you are not comfortable in dealing with that as a pedagogy. So once you have consolidated your strategy, I think you can move ahead to open it up to your kids. But again, I think at the end of the day, like Professor shared, it's about how well you use it and how you go ahead with it. Maybe use it as a device to spark debate in the classroom, or to have it as just a medium. So thank you so much, Professor Black. I think it was lovely to have you, and I thank each one of you. Please do share your comments and feedback and suggestions as we move ahead. You can join our community and we can carry forward this discussion. We'll be having a few strategy related insights that we'll try to share in the community over the next 1 month to help you understand how you can use AI in our community. So do join in and have a great week end ahead. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye and stay safe.
Can I say something just at the very end?
Yes, absolutely.
It's a little bit different than Google. You're right in that Google has algorithms and surveils us. but this has agency in creation. So we have to be really careful because of that. And I'm advocating not for total restriction, but for restriction when educators need it. When educators feel it's necessary, there's no problem in restricting. When educators feel that it's important to engage in AI, engage in AI. So I'm just saying, use your own power as educators and go forth in that direction.
So, Professor, the tetrad of media that you shared, I think that's an amazing prism for us to go ahead. Uh, Marshall McLuhan's four laws that you were
Yes.
talking about. So I think that's a good guide for us teachers to move forward. So thank you so much, Professor, and thank you everybody. Let's proceed to the lounge session.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity again.
Thank you, Professor.